The last time we came back from a commercial break, I was afraid I was going to have to tell you guys, yeah, I know, both times these two teams faced off this year, went all the way to 5 games, but it just seems like Octalysis is too strong. Now I'm happy to say we indeed are going to a Game 5 because Tempo Storm happened.
The tables have turned and Tempo's gone back to the ways of when they're second pick, that's when they're the most dominant. And I'm looking down at the drafts, I'm thinking, okay, they were second pick during game number 1, highly competitive game, but a different draft. And since we've seen Tempo kind of reel it back a little bit, although last game was a bit unique, Tempo Storm, their record when they're second pick has always been extremely high compared to first pick. So eager to see who's picking Battleground, who's getting first pick this game.
Well, it is Octalysis' choice, and so far have chosen first pick after losing both, and they'll keep that up. Granted, when you get down to Game 5, you know pretty much everything that is back up, or that is left up. So you have a good idea of, do I need to pick something so that I don't have to deal with a certain pocket strategy, or am I okay with all of the maps that are left to where I can make sure to get first pick? But it still leaves Tempo Storm in that second pick spot.
Yeah, I think this is a good opportunity. Hanzo, who we haven't called his name a lot in this draft or in this series, is definitely a hero that's going to come up, and I imagine he probably won't make it past second ban. If he does, I'd be surprised. But this is also the strategy where I remember seeing Octalysis bust out the Rhaegar Greymane strategy much earlier in the year and functioned highly around rotation using that Greymane to get on structure damage. So I know that they always have picks in their back pocket, maybe flex around a little bit, but also Abathur Valeera.
Yes, Abathur in general. Because we've already seen Greymane in this series too. Abathur Greymane is a great duo. Abathur Jaina, who has been pretty hotly contested. Abathur in general, I don't think that he's going to make it through bans. But then again, Tracer Genji has been very focused in those bans. Yeah,
one thing that if the Abathur does get let through, we've seen the Valeera. Valeera normally comes in at the tail end of the drafts, but we also saw the last time Octalysis picked that, they also had the Anubarak, who's not a bad clone target, and we've also seen it paired with a Kharazim and things of that nature. So if it is an Abathur composition, it might be very aggressive coming into this battleground, but again, the Hanzo factor is so strong. Scatter Arrow, yes, it's seen some nerfs with that PvE damage at level 4, but it still just chunks bosses on this map, and it's definitely something you have to be very aware of. You have to be able to play around on it, and if you're going to let it through, you better be ready to deal with it, because it will happen, and it will happen, and it will escalate before you can ever get back control of the map. So we'll see. I've
been pretty surprised at how much Tempo Storm has been able to get Johanna and Blaze. It just seems like there is far different priority and emphasis on both of those players. Goku liking different side laners. We've seen him play Urel now a couple of times, getting a win with that, but also losing with it in the last game. Also, they did play Blaze on Towers of Doom, but it just feels like the warrior and the solo for Tempo Storm, they've always been able to get what they want.
Well, Dahaka being taken away does say, hey, look, maybe we want the Abathur, but it's also something that Tempo Storm has picked up on Towers of Doom, the bigger maps that require the globals. No Abathur here, but you're also taking away one of the potential globals here from Dahaka away from Tempo Storm, and we're going to get a first pick ETC, which I imagine this is not the only warrior that we'll see. This is probably an offlane ETC.
I wrote down Genji because I was just so certain Genji having the poke for the tribute fights, for the swift rotations and strikes. I was certain it was going to be it, but no, first pick ETC, and I think that's a head scratcher for a lot of us, Tempo Storm maybe included.
Well, I think a lot of it, if Malfurion obviously comes out, that is a little bit troubling because, you know, if you stage dive in the back, but it does give you the global, it takes away Dahaka, you get the global, it's post 10. But if you're trying to get onto something, if somebody is running a Hanzo composition, if somebody is trying to maybe manipulate things, ETC can be there in a heartbeat and does give you the global. Falstad now comes to mind for Tempo Storm, if we're going to see that from Fan or Ven on the backline, or whether that's even necessary. But globals at this point will be a premium.
Could be a Mouth Jaina, although Tempo Storm proved in the last game it isn't necessary to have Jaina, so they're going to move away from that. Thought maybe it could be a Mouth Blaze too, but instead they pick up Genji. And that's a solid choice for either Fan or Ven, probably Ven.
Yeah, ETC has a really hard time getting onto either of those heroes. If it is stage dive, roots go down. Genji obviously always going to be in flanking position. Never going to be in that traditional area where we're going to see. So for Team Octalysis, you better have a clear strategy in mind. I mean, obviously, you've started out with the ETC. We saw the ETC solo tank on Towers of Doom, which is where things started to spiral out of control. But Octalysis, again, lots of tricks up their sleeve. Hanzo still available.
And in getting that Malfurion with the Genji, it also limits how Octalysis, if they were to go for a Tracer route, because obviously Tempo Storm felt it was more important to ban the Abathur there, but now you'd have to build more into a TAS Tracer. Generally, if we see a Tracer picked with a TAS, it's not until after the secondary ban, so Tempo Storm, if that's really a concern, could ban that out there. But there's a lot more things that seem to be higher priority on Cursed Hollow for the teams that we've seen so far, including the Hanzo. Look at Tyrael too, a lot of boss control.
If you want to make sure that Tyrael or ETC, if you do go mosh pit, can get value, well, Tyrael can put down a Sanctification, but you get Holy Ground post 13, which does generally have priority on this battleground. Hanzo, of course, again, I was going to be surprised if he made it anywhere near getting past second ban. Now our question is answered there. So Hanzo, boss control, you have great frontline control between ETC and Tyrael in the 5-on-5 skirmishes. Really like what Octalysis has going in the early game.
It's also a denial to pick up Tyrael because Malfurion's already been chosen, so unless Tempo Storm's willing to double support with a Uther and a Malfurion, then there's no invulnerability for that Genji, and especially if Tempo Storm wants to now pick up something like the Greymane still, there's no invulnerability to pair with that either, with Sanctification being taken there, as well as a possible Holy Mosh situation or scenario for Team Octalysis. Tempo, though, they're going to ban Karazim.
Yeah, and that says to me that Tempo Storm realizes they don't have a lot of control. It also says that you're probably not going Johanna. You can still go Johanna, but Karazim into a Johanna, stuns, blinds, things of that nature. That, or you just really think Buds on that Karazim can be super impactful. So see how that goes. It does limit supports in terms of save options. Uther all of a sudden comes to mind in terms of one-person saves, but the healing is definitely going to be lacking in terms of the sustained amount of damage. Maybe shielding and ETC, potentially Prog Rock, once it's completed, is enough.
Yeah, I don't think it's as much of a problem because of Tyrael and ETC being the frontliners. Illidan ban by Octalysis. You don't want to deal with it.
Earth Ally does do wonders against auto attacks.
I think Murden is going to be the choice of tank for Tempo Storm, unless we stick with that Johanna, but having the Storm Bolt, Entangling Roots, Swift Strike seems to be a very common 1-2-3 punch for teams.
Well, I think one of the things that concerns me is if Murden is your choice and Johanna's not, is Stage Dive maybe an option, or is Mosh Pit? Because then your interrupts become limited. Li Ming obviously could be there for the double reset if you did want to go into that. So that is potentially still a thing. And I think that objectively she's strong, has good poke, has the kill potential, so it could come in here for Tempo Storm. But the tank position and the off-lane position, Blaze seems likely, but...
Ooh, they're going to do it again.
This is hyper-aggressive.
Again, one ranged assassin of sorts, so Genji's more all over the place kind of assassin. The team fights, and Greymane's gonna offer a lot in the team fights too, but he gives so much in sieging, in getting camps. He's very flexible. He's flexible in build too. Last two picks for Team Octalysis. We're looking at the Buds hero and most likely another ranged hero, though some teams have been willing to flex into another melee having that Tyrael, and they'll do just that. They get Thrall and for Buds.
That is terrifying to dive into. But is Uther now the call? You get the save. Your Wave of Light now has much more consistent value as it will hit in 3 melee. You don't have to line everybody up. They'll be in front of you. Don't worry about that. But Deckard is here, but Deckard with a Genji, Greymane, and a Murden diving on could get the stay a while right onto that melee. They got the Uther. I like the Uther here.
Me too. Especially because they have a lot of cross-supporting, even if this were some sort of poison hero that normally would make things more difficult for Buds' Uther, because they have Tyrael shielding, Sanctification, likely.
Is Blaze even in consideration here at this point? I got a feeling, I feel like something like a Zeratul would be coming out because it's Glaurung, but going against the Hanzo and an Uther does not seem very appealing at all. So Blaze, yeah.
Because if you are going to be diving possible double reset with Greymane Genji, then having a bunker to dip into, get some armor, and go back out while you try to weather the storm that is Earthquake, Sanctification, possibly Mosh, then it's going to be helpful to have.
Man, this is the best drafts I think I've seen from these teams. They're both trying to counter each other. I think it fits the map very well. The Hanzo does tend to give me a little bit more favor towards that team, especially with the boss control. But with the dive potential coming in from Tempo Storm and how well we know they can execute and control those, it will be fun. But again, the global of ETC post level 10, is that enough to control the map, control the rotations, and be where you need to be to really push this game and turn game 5 in your favor? Because Octalysis lost the last 2. That's all she wrote right now. This is game 5.
Yeah, I think the momentum is heavily in Tempo Storm's favor, but this draft feels much better for Octalysis. Also, another thing to keep in mind, if Octalysis is hoping to get on top of Tempo Storm with a Dragon's Arrow, Nature's Cure might make that more difficult. So we'll see if they can proc that out with maybe a Power Slide first and then the Dragon's Arrow, vice versa, just making sure that they aren't counting their chickens before they hatch when it comes to engages off the arrow.
Well, Tempo Storm, of course, our team on the left there in blue, and on the right, it's going to be Octalysis. And we'll see if they can maybe right the ship here. Obviously, very melee heavy. Thrall being played by Draded again, being that flexible option. No Crash Lightning this time. Echo definitely the choice. But Uther going into the auto attacks, making sure to get that cooldown reduction, get some mana back as well. Going to be looking to try and keep that lockdown when those engages do happen, because it's not a matter of when, Gilly. It's not a matter of if, it's when.
It feels like the days of Silver Touch Holy Shock are past us. This does feel, with so many melee and pseudo-melee heroes that are in the meta, and how many even that you see on each side of the battlefield, even in this series alone, that this Hammer of the Lightbringer, well met, Pursuit of Justice, but especially Hammer of the Lightbringer with the Benediction later on. And even if Uther then has to get a Divine Shield, he still has a ton of stun lock in those fights.
Cattle just wanting to stack that Stormbolt. Again, going into that infinite quest at 1, also complementing his baseline to get the Pierce. This is an opportunity, I think, that Glaurung in the top lane, it's very rare, but going against an ETC does give you quite a bit more value in order to push and actually gain some early control. And I was curious on what rotation we were going to see camp-wise. I was taking a look. Greymane, of course, is going to move towards the Knights first, not the Siege Giant, because I think they'll be trying to time that around the objective, since that first objective is going to be on the bottom of the map.
You don't necessarily have to get this. They could hold it out. Octalysis sends Prismaticism Hanzo and Buds to do the same with the Bruisers. Tempo are going to pick them up earlier on. So we'll see how much they can do sieging with that. Obviously, before 4, this takes a lot longer to get these camps. That changes once you get serrated arrows, but that is one thing in favor of Tempo Storm with that Greymane. You get Curse the Worgen, that's his trait. He gets that extra damage in Worgen form right out of the gates.
Helping to clear that bot lane, Tempo Storm is going to make a concerted effort to rotate 4 members here. If you can get Greymane onto that, that will help. I think that they realize with the shielding and the response now in Octalysis, it's forced them to kind of thwart that assault, sending Genji back to the bottom lane. You could see that Tempo Storm wanted to force this rotation, but it's a really good response by Octalysis, bringing their Knights into play here. And then, of course, having that clear, having that damage in particular with Tyrael, offering that shielding just a bit too much to overcome to risk losing any of that bot lane. So
yeah, sometimes you see teams hold on to the Bruisers until right when the tribute phase is about to start, and then you're looking for just the free push from that. You force your opponents to make the best of a bad situation or of 2 bad choices for you, but here, getting it earlier, Tempo Storm really wanted to see if they could get any siege out of that. They did get some damage done to the towers, but Octalysis, in getting their own Bruisers and just making sure that they're responding to the rotations, it was well done for them, and that keeps this early game quite even. Yeah,
Octalysis, I think, has to keep an eye. They saw the rotation out again. They're timing this. They're using Greymane to get this camp, to get the rotation out. We see Blaze, he's going to just double lane soak. And for Octalysis, I don't think they can necessarily sit around and contend. Obviously, the first tribute is going to be middle, either top or bottom. But the fact that ETC, obviously hiding in the bush, not showing his position, we can see that on the minimap, I just don't know how much Octalysis can do. They have the poke potential with Hanzo, but how much do you really want to commit to this, knowing that you're going to have the Siege Giants up at the top, you're forced to respond mid? It's just way too difficult, I think, to make this type of early game risk.
Yeah, ETC doesn't get extra damage to try to deal with that until level 7, whatever he does pick. For now, Octalysis are going to hold off, but they cycle out Tyrael to the mid to keep the soak up so that they can get 7.
I think the thing that they're going to find is that Greymane pushing mid and Siege Giants and Blaze pushing top could potentially overwhelm them if they can find that advantage. But right now, they're matching lanes. In Tempo Storm, they're just going to try and hold with these three. Thrall's actually rotating up mid. I'm going to say to see if they can get a little bit of damage, but this is just an interesting spot. It's very tough to have to deal with this. Goku's going to get one more interrupt with the Eldru and see if they got more in their hand.
He's going to teleport in to do it again. Smited himself in, smote himself in just to make sure that they could get here. 7 achieved by Octalysis. This is a welcome pickup for them as they circle around trying to soak up any who might try to thwart their efforts in picking up this first tribute.
Ooh, the body blocks are real, keeping the shurikens away, but the top is where the real action is because Greymane ended up rotating. This is one of those advantages that you can take using the Greymane, the Siege Camp. Who's defending this? We did get Pinball Wizard, so you do take bonus damage if you use your face melt after you power slide onto those targets, but that damage is done.
It's not letting up either. Nobody has rotated up to help ETC. Octalysis are going to keep these Giants ready for the next tribute phase, which is going to be on the top half of the map. So it'll slightly benefit them. But Tempo Storm doing all the right things, not losing anybody around that tribute, delaying Octalysis as long as they could to get maximum value out of that Greymane in the mid and then in the top.
Now Octalysis is going to try and do to Tempo Storm what Tempo Storm did to them. They timed their Siege Giants. It's going to push during the objective phase. We can see Blaze will be down there. Minion's still going to push here in the mid. Experience relatively even. And this tribute definitely in favor of Team Octalysis in terms of the positioning. See if maybe they can make something happen. But another wall goes down at the clutches of Greymane.
Yeah, he's just sitting there on the towers. And it may be less experience, but it still opens up the forts for when you can get a curse. ETC has gone down to the bottom lane. Still no stage dive yet, though, to make it more threatening to Tempo Storm.
Both teams are racing towards 10 right now. That's why you see Muradin go up. He doesn't show himself. He just sits in the bush. He's going to body soak XP, stay mounted. In case something does come up, he can rotate down. But he is definitely body soaking right now to keep up that race. He's actually going to disrupt the rotation even from Thrall to try and give himself an advantage. Very heads-up play right now from Cattle.
Buds comes in. That was the primary person who was picking up that tribute, but because of the positioning, Octalysis can't afford to make those kinds of moves. Now Octalysis goes in, they get Buds and Genji around the point. Vin, this is much better positioning now that Tempo Storm have been able to get over into this side of it, but not feeling confident enough. They'll back off as people move off the map. Dreaded coming in, heroic abilities now available for both teams.
The stage dive was the pickup. We'll see how that plays out. That's why you saw Tempo Storm start to back away. They realized the threat of being caught in that choke was very real. Both teams making a lot of really good plays, but structure advantage definitely in favor of Tempo. And if they do get the curse, you can expect Greymane to definitely be ripping apart these structures. See if Thrall makes it over. Does get the interrupt onto Cattle, at least momentarily. I feel this game has potential to just blow wide open. But right as I say that, you can see Greymane on the map looking to go back and take another siege camp.
Yeah, Jay, how this feels so much like Towers of Doom, where Tempo Storm chip away brick by brick on these structures, and then all they do is win one fight, and suddenly the game is all but over. And this is Cursed Hollow too. That was Towers of Doom, where it's not over until it's over with the core health, because you can't directly attack. This is a different story. Goku gets rooted, Laurung in, is taking damage, seeing if they can force out that sanctification, but it's the bunker is going to be used instead.
Root's going to land there, no follow-up. There's the Eldruans out. These tributes, Gilly, we are 8 minutes in and just now to our second tribute. Sometimes you'll see all three tributes before heroics are ever picked up, but the tense moments that we will see will continue. No kills yet, but you know they are cautious. Both teams want this win. They also realize it's boss time, and there's nobody that can afford to give this up. Justin, of course, sniffing that out, but with Hanzo making his way to the top, it's going to be an even trade. But tributes, however, in favor of Octalysis.
It is a bit slower of a rotation for Octalysis to this boss. Tempo Storm having that Greymane get the pickup, but they are like to know that Octalysis would know that that were a case, and now are on their boss too. It gets picked up. positioning for the tribute, it's Tempo Storm's defended one. But with the boss too, Tempo Storm are just using this Greymane to lay siege to the bottom lane and take out the final towers in front of a fort here.
Well, you can see every play being made. Genji went over to catch vision to see if anybody was rotating down. Hanzo, however, ended up using his agility to get over the wall, so they didn't see him going for those giants right away. They didn't realize the backup was there. This boss going to get through the fort pretty easily. Tribute in favor of Tempo Storm. Octalysis, they're going to use those siege giants to try and buy a little bit of time. See if they can come in here. Do we get a stage dive, or are they just going to concede?
Looks to be a concession of the tribute, but Tempo Storm are getting pretty close to 13. And it's just not the same. This is an early boss. Tempo totally fine to just leave it to its own devices because they knew they got more. They knew they used that Greymane and got the fort, and Octalysis were very focused on hoping that they could get a curse. Because no doubt Octalysis feels the pressure of this game, Jay-How, the pressure of the series slipping away from them after being up 2 games, and how much structural damage Tempo Storm takes at every turn.
Sport will fall in the top lane on the side of Tempo Storm. Keep an eye on your clocks right now, because right now we're about 9 minutes, 50 seconds. These bosses picked up about a minute ago. ETC in trouble. Does he have a stage dive out? He does.
That's not very far. Not far enough.
Well, you know, sometimes it's just trying to get those snap rotations. I remember there's a video by Cawthon Luck, coach of Heroes Hearth out there. He set up a lot of F keys you can set up for camera markers. I think generally for Justin playing the main tank role, maybe he locked in one of those, maybe he didn't have it available and just couldn't find a quick enough escape point, because that was a lot of damage coming in quick. Stage dive did go off too, which means that
he can't stage dive in on this. That's very unfortunate. Holy Ground slows down. Can they get this? They would be getting it. ETC would be back. No, they can't. It's just now 5 seconds out. They may be able to find until ETC can get here. Draded needs to be very careful, though. He's going to be separated from the team, forced to use Earthquake, but they're buying time. Sanctification, too. Here comes Justin back into the fight. The power slide in on Glaurung at the perfect time. They bring him down.
Seeing if they can get more. There's going to be a stun on the interrupt on the Dwarf Toss. The Holy Ground locking in Cattle. Perfect plays being made by Octalysis, and that is the pressure felt. Curse now available here for Team Octalysis, and Gilly once again. That bunker was right at that 9-10 second mark. That 10 seconds is very felt here, and I think that when you get so used to something, that internal clock, you know when it's going to be there, and that internal clock is off now because we are on a different Blaze bunker. So things definitely having an impact. Octalysis now regaining the lead in this game, looking to do some structure damage of their own.
Yeah, teams that continue to pick Blaze might need to fall back just slightly to get used to that new bunker timing, but that was perfection. I was so scared with how aggressive of a rotation Octalysis made that Draded was hit, Earthquaked, and Sanctification, but it was just low enough of a cooldown timer that even without stage dive, ETC made it back in and took out Glaurung to win the fight and this curse. Now there's 1 fort remaining, and Octalysis is keen to get it.
They don't have the CGing potential of a Greymane, but when a Thrall gets on there, it's decent damage. Obviously, Hanzo Scatter Arrow doesn't do so well against structures, so not available, but experience slightly in favor of Octalysis. And for what it's worth, Gilly, Tributes pretty much reset 1 in favor of Tempo Storm, but we're going to be looking at, again, in about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, boss contention and who's willing to commit towards that boss. And if Team Octalysis, if they had the same slow rotation as last time, will it be around Curse Point? Will it be around that Tribute that could potentially change the game? And then if that boss goes in with a Greymane and a Curse, could be a very gloomy story on the side of Octalysis.
It's amazing to me how close so many of these games have been in this series. And I anticipated that, you know, yes, there is a sub for Tempo Storm, but there's also all of the roster changes that Octalysis has been in, and that has set these teams to near identical in level that we've seen, especially just throughout the games alone and how close they have been going into the extreme late game. Giants at top and bottom.
Fleet of Foot picked up by Hanzo, not the norm, but trying to get a little bit of extra movement speed after you hit that Storm Bow to make sure that you can get away from some of this potential damage. Tempo Storm sieges up on the mid lane, and boss is now up in the bottom left. This is the moment where this game can potentially change. Because Octalysis was slow, on theirs before, it spawned a little bit less. And this is the moment where this game could change. The good news for Octalysis, the tribute up in the top, they don't have to contest it because it's not curse point, but that bottom keep wall did take some structural damage. And that is the point where this boss, and then you look 5 minutes down the road from now, could potentially end. So the cycles of bosses, very, very particular here by both teams, have to be dealt with.
With the tribute, Octalysis wants to go along with the boss. They're going to leave ETC with the stage dive.
I don't think Octalysis cannot defend here. Yeah, they have to defend.
Teams can leave the team for later. Like you said, it's not curse point for Tempo Storm. It's scary. You don't want to be against 2 tributes, but it's not the end of the world. Tyrael sets up to try to take that tribute.
I'm a bit surprised that's not ETC up there since he does have the global, which means that if Tyrael takes that, I mean, this is a long time before he gets back. Justine forced a power slide to dodge that boss route. And again, with a gray main behind this, no ETC for the global and a Tyrael to be here for the fight. And this is a very rough situation because this keep will likely fall. And there is nothing that they can really do it but power slide in. Justine, looks like he's playing Frogger, jumping around trying to dodge all that.
Yeah, it was on the boss stun now. Glauum gets knocked back. Dragon's Arrow's already been out. Keep is gone. The boss is still working on the keep in the top lane. Tempo Storm are okay to leave if Octalysis will let them. Octalysis now, they want to fight. They know that the boss is still going top. Fan almost dead. Justine brings him down, and that's the first kill in this fight.
Prismat started that with a major scatter arrow that hit. Now Cattle, he's in a tough position. Healing static against several. Melee does keep him alive quite a bit longer. Stormbolt's going to land. Cattle looking for a dwarf toss out, but Goku in position. He's trying to chase down. Looks like this should be enough. But Cattle, how long do you want to survive here? This is only staggering deaths. It's one of those moments where it's better to die quicker in this situation.
Yeah, almost a 30-second difference. 20 between the two with the tribute spawning. Octalysis got the last one. Again, not a curse point. No bosses in front of that. And that keep took minimal amounts of damage, but did take some damage from Tempo Storm and the boss. But Tempo Storm continues to make great calls around this gray main, showing a lot of practice and precision and understanding of this hero.
3 minutes from now is when the bosses will spawn, and that is something that both teams will have a point of contention on, and you won't be able to give up the boss to the other team at that point. And now this is where that staggered death comes into play. Team Octalysis, they realize they still have the 20-second advantage, and they're looking to try and take advantage of this siege camp that they did obtain through this invade.
Yeah, but they have so many melee. Look at how hard it is to get on this point. They're actually going to Holy Ground and stage dive, knowing that the roots will be there just to zone away long enough that the rest of the team cycles around, gets the damage in, and hopefully gets out in time just before Muradin spawns. They're on the retreat.
Again, bosses might end up deciding this game, but more importantly, next tribute is going to spawn on the lower left in favor of Tempo Storm. That's positional advantage on their side. And if you're Octalysis, do you just concede, play towards 20, and see where the next one goes? And then eventually, again, boss times in particular, I can't stress it enough, bosses are going to be the biggest factor potentially at the end of this game to just, you get yours, we get mine. It might be a race, we might have to defend, we might have to invade. There is so much that these teams have to think about right now.
There's about a 10-second difference between stage dive and that tribute too. Octalysis get their giants, but Catapult and the rest of Tempo Storm are looking for a straight-up fight.
Goku goes in. Gets the hop over the wall. Stormbolt, again, with that Pierce. 32 stack, so it has the baseline Pierce. The invade's going to be there. Glauum puts the oil down, gets away for now. Tribute going to be spawning. It looks like Team Octalysis is willing to potentially take this fight. They do have the Holy Ground to give them that positional control. They also have catapults in the top lane where Siege Giants on the bottom are going to neutralize those for quite a bit.
Right, you are. Power slide. Goku dives in. Bunker used. Sanctification 2 as they bail out. Trying to get that extra time of not taking damage off of the Sanctification. Now Divine Shield even used for Justine, just keeping the front line healthy. But Caterpillar, the split has been sort of all over the place, and Cattle diving deep. Ven goes down, hoping that he can take out Priz, and they do die. Losing out Draded too makes this in favor of Tempo.
Justine's got to get out of here alive. I don't think Buds can save him. He might have a heal, but this is going to be one of those situations where if one dies and the other dies, it's all she wrote. And with 2 members down on the side of Octalysis, the health bar is very low. Stage dive back. Catapults are here. This is going to be an opportunity with Greymane. They're going to try and end right now. Tempo Storm going in, trying to finish this series right here, right now.
No Sanctification, Jay How. No Divine Shield either. Buds and Goku trying to get back. Nobody's been able to go back and heal up before this. Power slide stuns a couple. Fan is definitely the target if they can take him out. We're going to use this bunker, get the flames from this. This bunker also gives the increased they have the fortified bunker too. Octalysis is doing all they can. Uther finally goes down. The core is at 50% and continue to go down. Now with Tyrael falling, it looks to be enough. Greymane is going to go down, but it's just Justing left.
Tranquility is going to be enough. Tempo Storm finds their way back. The reverse sweep is real, and that is going to be Tempo Storm coming back in this series behind a clutch late-game team fight. And I hypothesized maybe Octalysis should give this up, but they were willing to take a fight. Vin goes in, gets the trade, but then go for the throat, and Greymane hopping into that Worgen form, just getting those kills. Very heads-up play, and Fan making the plays on Greymane, where all of a sudden we see Greymane twice in this series and having a major impact.
That was the difference of the 1 for 2. Had either of those damage dealers survive, it might have been enough to keep Tempo Storm from going for the core, but in taking out and forcing back for so long and knowing that some things like Sanctification, Divine Shield, all of the rotations back to core were very long for Octalysis, it was just barely enough for Tempo Storm, and man, shout outs to them for making that call, because that's a scary call. It's a risky call. They had lost to keep too.
Yeah, a lot of the damage though was down between Hanzo and Thrall, so like, let's go for it. And again, Bunker coming up, he waited to lock in before Bunker went down. I believe he waited for 20 to hit, which came in right in the middle of that. Ended up getting the upgraded Bunker, I believe, in the middle of that fight. So able to use that 20 tier to their advantage, and of course just enough damage. Worgen form, really, really strong on that. He waited for Tyrael to die, disengaged out. There was just a lot of heads-up plays made there, understanding the ways that you could fail and the ways that you could succeed in Tempo Storm. They found a way to succeed. They've been there before.
Reverse sweep. Amazing plays by Tempo Storm, despite all they have been dealing with and working on throughout the beginning of this part, that they come in and reverse sweep after losing the first 2 games. But man, Octalysis didn't make it easy. Neither of them made it easy for any of those wins. This was a very hard-fought victory for Tempo Storm.
The bosses were one of the points that I was making. Had that fight not gone on, it would have come down to the bosses, but the fact that they were willing to take that fight 19-19, Tranquility and Bunker seemed to win out over Sanctification, so things definitely in favor of Octalysis there. And if you're Octalysis, you have a big weekend this weekend. You don't get 1 top team, you get 2 top teams. And so falling to Tempo Storm, and depending on how the Heroes Heart series goes, their point of potentially being the #1 team, we got to remember that Tempo Storm only lost 3 series, 2 of those in part 2, but that was enough to keep them the #1 spot, to give them the automatic qualifier towards BlizzCon. And that is something that these teams have to keep in the back of the mind, is this is a full season. You're not just playing towards Clash, but you're playing for here. So if you drop to one team and you drop to another team, your odds of getting that #1 automatic qualifier, a little bit tougher.
Yeah, especially considering the buddy system, the buddy pass system of who wins Western Clash. And Team Dignitas has been looking mighty fine. But let's talk to Tempo Storm, as I'm sure they would like to get that win there and bring an additional NA team to BlizzCon. Fan, congratulations. That was a super intense series. How are you guys feeling right now?
We're feeling pretty good. I feel like we're getting into a habit of reverse sweeping. Gotta make it interesting for the viewers, you know, just thinking of Twitch chat. But yeah, we feel really good about that win, because like right now I think this was going to be our weakest week of the entire phase for us. We're changing a lot of different stuff, not just like trying out people, but also a lot of internal stuff. So yeah, it feels really good to be able to, you know, pull a win in your weakest week.
Well, it feels like along with Vin coming in and subbing for you guys, we've seen you have to make some adjustments in some of the heroes that you've played. As a result, we've seen some Maya from you. So talk to us about some of the adjustments that you've been going through specifically on your team while you guys figure this next phase of Tempo Storm out.
Yeah, so like you said, like Sam was, you know, one of the best players in North America at his role. He would just he had his heroes and he would play like 500 games on each of them, whereas I would play like 20 games on each hero and fill for all the different heroes. So it is quite a change. I am confident that I can, you know, fill his role, but it just, I don't have the number of games that he does, so we're still working on like getting there as well. And
we're not laughing at you, it's June. Please continue.
God. And I mean, yeah, outside of that, Sam was more of the, like, he called for a lot of rotates and snap rotates and stuff like that. So now that he's gone, I'm doing more of that as well, but that's it's manageable for sure.
Well, we saw you play a couple Greymane games, and though it's been seen a little bit in Europe, it's still it feels like more of a niche pick. Where do you feel like Greymane falls in this meta right now?
I think Grayman's actually pretty good overall. He had a
Mhm.
change to his level 13 and a slight buff, and I think that's actually going to make him quite a bit stronger than he used to be.
Mhm.
And the thing with Grayman is all you really need is like a good Grayman player, and I think he's always viable, almost no matter what. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on the Grayman.
Well, thank you. Stay safe out there, fan. I'll let Jay Howe ask you some questions.
The sharks are swimming, I guess. I think that's a shark. Well, listen,
Yeah,
you
that's a
guys
shark.
obviously playing with a sub coming in these first few weeks. It's got to feel good to get those wins because I think a lot of people would forgive a loss at this point, maybe even yourselves. But how good does it feel to actually get the wins here when they matter most, even with, a little bit of troubling times?
Yeah, so I mean, like, here's the thing, right? It's people are saying we're weak now because Psalm's gone, which obviously we're a lot weaker than when he was here. But even before Psalm left, I feel like it was just a thing for people to discredit us or never give us any credit. Like before we went to Western Clash, I know a lot of NA teams were like, yeah, Tempo's the worst NA team for sure. And before we went to midseason, I know NA teams were like, yeah, Tempo is going to be lucky if they get out of group stages. Um, I don't know. I feel like for us, we talk with our results, and for other people, they just forget about us. But there's no guarantee that us at our weakest is going to fall to another team at their strongest. That's all I'm saying.
So even at your weakest, you're still better than the rest of NA.
You said it, not me, JL.
Well, listen, I had you guys pegged as one of the top contenders at midseason brawl. I'm glad I wasn't wrong there, and I'm sure for you guys' sakes, they were wrong. But looking at this team going forward, obviously you guys still have a decision to make going forward, but Vin's performance has been standout at times so far. What do you see from Vin so far? You guys obviously brought him back this week. How has he done in his role coming in here? Obviously, as Gilead talked about, you guys flexing a little bit of different picks so far. How has he been so far?
Vin's been pretty good for sure. He's a really strong mechanical player more than anything. He obviously doesn't have the game knowledge that Psalm would have as a veteran that's been playing internationally for 3 years. But yeah, Vin's really strong mechanically. He's open to learning. He's learning pretty fast. He's open to feedback. And while he might not be able to, have the knowledge or make the super flashy plays, have the confidence to do that every single time, I'm sure he'll get to a point where he can.
Well, Heroes Hearth had mentioned maybe a little bit that Octalysis might be some of their top contender, maybe Tempo. Now that you guys have taken down Octalysis, you look at the top end of our standings here, and Heroes Hearth is up there right now after their victory today. Still got another series to go this weekend. But how do you look at the hierarchy now that you've taken down Octalysis? You start to look at how this will unfold. Do you feel that you're still the top team moving forward? Obviously, Heroes Hearth still a tough test in the future.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, after firing all those shots, and I was just a little salty because people kept firing shots at us, and we didn't even start anything. But I really think there's 5 good teams in North America. Like I think the top 5 at any day could beat any other of the top 5. Like it's expanding a lot. So I think Heroes Hearth is a really good team. Obviously, we're still aiming for #1 as well, but we accept that we are for now a lot weaker than we were at midseason. Like it's going to take a lot of time for us to reach full power. Again, we lost like 6 months of synergy, and obviously Psalm's a really good player, so we're still aiming for the top, but we'll see what happens.
Well, 3 for 3 this year on Octalysis going to all 5 games. You guys now have that series lead, but more importantly here in Phase 2. Congratulations, fan, and we'll look forward to hearing from you in the future.
Thanks.
Fan, before I ask you about simplicity, who are those top 5 teams, just out of curiosity, if I can put you on the spot?
Yeah, sure. So Tempo Storm, Heroes Hearth, Octalysis, Endemic, and Freedom.
All right.
I think there's a lot of like Simplicity. I think they're like a dark horse kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
They looked really, really good, like in their last match against Endemic. But for now, I still consider them, not in the top 5.
How do you think they'll fare versus you guys now later on this weekend?
It's our match is going to be on West. I'm pretty sure because we're both West teams. So I think they're actually going to do pretty well. Looking forward to it.
All
Playing
right.
a lot of old teammates and old veterans.
Yeah. It's always fun to get to see old teammates match up. Well, congratulations again on your hard-fought victory. Before you go celebrate, you have any shout-outs?
Yeah, shout outs to Tempo Storm and all our sponsors, Red Bull, Twitch, Nvidia, our newest sponsor, Overwolf. Make sure you guys check them out. They're awesome. Shout outs to my teammates for
All of
keeping
them?
calm.
All of your teammates? Including June?
Yeah. Wait a minute. What did he just do?
He just crawled past you.
He actually got me sick. I'm actually really sick right now. So
Okay.
another reason why this week was a disaster. But yeah, shout outs to my teammates and for keeping our composure, getting the reverse sweep, and shout outs to you guys for casting and Twitch chat. I see you guys always supporting us, always cheering for us. You guys are awesome.
Thank you. Congrats again, fan.
Where did he
Watch
go?
out for the sharks.
I will.
Where did June go?
No.
I'm still looking for
There he, no, he's not. Okay, bye, fan.
Bye.
Next, they're going to have a single on me, and they're just going to see a wild Gilly run behind me. I mean, you'll probably have to get on a box, but, you know, maybe jump past.
Excuse me, I can be seen behind this desk. I'm not standing on anything right now.
Behind me, though. Can you be seen behind me?
No, but no box is going to save that, you jolly green giant. What's up for tomorrow? I'm wearing the green.
I was going to say, you're wearing the green. You're wearing the
but
green.
Not a giant. Tomorrow's schedule. We will find out what you can look forward to for your Saturday viewing pleasure. In Europe, Leftovers versus Team Liquid. Team Liquid's on a tear. I'm pumped about this team. Hopefully they'll be able to keep it up week to week. Then Zealots take on Granite Gaming. Neither of those teams, unfortunately, able to get a victory yet. One of those teams will change that tomorrow. Over in North America, No Tomorrow takes on Team Freedom. And finally, Endemic versus LFM. This is Fury versus his old Gale Force Esports teammates, J-How.
I want to touch on that in a second, but I'm with you on a Liquid train because this new roster, the way that they're playing, the fact that they started making concerted effort towards earlier this year of when in doubt, you can play more towards that Viking style. You don't have to be weird every game. That Liquid team looks strong, but Fury, grudge match central against Endemic. Maybe a little bit. People have heard about that, but obviously that's Fury's former team. He's going to be coming back looking for revenge. We know he's been aggressive on the ETC. We know he can play on the Garrosh. That is a must-see. I mean, there's already been some shade thrown out towards other teammates, and you know there's a lot of respect for a lot of players, but there is pride involved. It doesn't matter who you are. There is pride involved. That is going to be interesting. There's going to be sprays, maybe a little bit of accidental hearthing repeatedly. It's going to be cool.
ETC players need to be watch out because there's already been a whole lot of Twitter beef happening between the two teams. If you have not seen it, you should check it out. It's going to be spicy.
ETC Twitter beef.
Thank you for joining us today here at the Heroes Global Championship. J-How and I will be back tomorrow for more North America, but there's more Korea and Europe to come too. Have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.